One of the steps into the future for us is how can traditional animation and CG animation blend on the screen so that you believe they're part of the same character.
Treasure Planet was maybe Disney's most experimental movie of its time. It was directed by John Musker and Ron Clements, a longtime duo who previously directed a bunch of Disney movies during the Renaissance era, including The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, and Hercules. They originally pitched the idea, a sci-fi adaptation of Robert Louis Stevenson's original novel, way back in the 1980s, but the idea wasn't greenlit by Disney until Hercules completed production. Despite an extremely high spending budget of over $140 million, Treasure Planet failed to make an impact on the box office, grossing only around $109 million worldwide. It's often regarded as one of Disney's biggest failures, and a key factor in the demise of their 2D films before CGI eventually took over everything. But it's pretty difficult to find a kid who actually saw this movie on the big screen. Well, I was one of them. Yeah, somehow I never saw The Emperor's New Groove, and Lilo and Stitch completely passed me by. But one sunny day in 2003, my mum took me along to the cinema to see Treasure Planet, and it completely blew me away. I became obsessed with this movie. You see, the thing about Treasure Planet is that the story is slightly different in the UK. If you look at the US box office returns for the 6 traditionally animated Disney movies released in the early 2000s, Treasure Planet comes in dead last, even under Home on the Range, which, frankly, is a crime against nature. But if you look at the UK box office numbers, Treasure Planet actually comes in third, with Atlantis, Brother Bear, and Home on the Range all performing significantly worse over here. And let me tell you, dead last is exactly where that one belongs, but more on that soon enough. So in the UK, Treasure Planet was actually a bit more of a commercial success than some of the other Disney movies of the time. Released in February 2003, it reached the top 3, and grossed $6.5 million overall. It might not have gotten anywhere near Lilo and Stitch, but at least it gets the bronze. It's interesting to ponder why the movie did better over here. Maybe it's because the writer of the original story was Scottish, or perhaps we just had more of a taste for steampunky sci-fi adventures. I don't know. Either way, Treasure Planet is definitely something I grew up with. There was a lot of marketing hype for this movie at the time. Cereal boxes, books, Happy Meal toys, and of course, plenty of trailers. In fact, this movie might have one of the most epic trailers ever. Just listen to the music. They don't make them like that anymore. Obviously I already talked about the video game, but now it's time to discuss the movie itself. Now, I might be a VHS collector, but this movie was actually one of my first ever DVDs. Yeah, I still have it. This was a big Christmas treasure for me at the time, no pun intended, and I'll talk a bit more about it as we dig into this review. I do have the VHS as well though, because I was a weird kid, and one copy of this movie just wasn't enough. This is another thing I borrowed from my cousin, and then he never asked for it back. That trick worked every time. And I like how it still says new on the sticker. There's irony for you. So fire up your Solar Surfer and get ready to explore the loot of 1,000 worlds. Strangely, no logo variations this time, just that classic Disney look. Oh, how I miss it. So we begin in the far reaches of outer space, where our narrator is Judge Claude Frollo?
On the clearest of nights, when the winds of the Ethereum were calm and peaceful.
Now, Tony J might seem like a strange choice for a narrator here, but once a bunch of space pirates show up and steal everyone's treasure, it all starts to make sense.
We've got to have money.
This handsome devil is Captain Flint, a fearsome pirate who roamed the galaxy stealing treasure, before stashing it all in a lost world called Treasure Planet.
The loot of 1,000 worlds.
But this is all in the past, and Flint's adventures have since become a legendary story, read by a young kid called Jim Hawkins, who stays up late reading books under the covers. I can relate to him already. But Jim's mother, played by Laurie Metcalf, catches him in the act, and tries to make him understand that Treasure Planet is just a myth.
How do you think Captain Flint did it, Mom?
I think it's more like a legend.
Also, did anyone notice that Jim has a toy of Stitch on his shelf? Now that I think about it, the sci-fi nature of these movies is quite compatible, so for all I know they take place in the same universe.
I know it's real.
You win. It's real.
We fast forward 12 years, and Jim is now a teenager, voiced by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He lives on the mining planet of Montressa, and spends his time wisely by flying around on a rocket-powered Solar Surfer. Okay, this is the point when the movie just hooked me. I would have killed for one of these things. It's like skateboarding if you made it 10 times cooler. I know there's a new Tony Hawk game coming out soon, so I want Jim as a secret character. You know it makes sense. But Jim is caught trespassing and gets busted by the Robocops, who bring him back to the inn owned by his mother. They're very polite.
We see his type all the time, man. Losers.
And why do they run on tracks? What are they, the long-lost brothers of Sir Kill-A-Lot?
Jim, I have had it. Do you want to go to juvenile hall? Is that it?
It's here we realise that Jim isn't just your average Disney hero. Most of the time the main characters are princesses or big strong heroes, but Jim is just a troubled teen. His life is lacking direction, and he doesn't seem to know what to do with himself.
Jim, I just don't want to see you throw away your entire future.
Yeah, what future?
It's the same reason Lilo works so well in the last movie. It feels genuine, and it's easy to empathise with her emotional struggles.
It's been hard enough keeping this place afloat by myself without you
Mom, it's no big deal.
Jim's behaviour also has a negative effect on his mother, and it's up to her friend, a scientist named Dr. Doppler, to try and comfort her.
Thanks for listening, Delbert. It helps.
It's going to be okay.
He's voiced by David Hyde Pierce, and wow, did he end up backing the wrong horse when it came to animated movies.
Ooh, wrong turn.
After Jim argues with his mother, he sits up on the roof listening to her down below.
Ever since his father left, well, Jim's just never recovered.
It's clear here that Jim isn't just a bratty teen. He clearly feels guilty about the strain he's putting on his mum, which is a nice touch. But when a ship crash lands nearby, Jim leaps in to help and finds a dying old sailor called Billy Bones, who has such a long neck, he should probably get an award for it. It turns out that Bones is being hunted by pirates for carrying a secret orb, and he warns Jim about them just before he dies.
Beware the cyborg.
There's our first corpse in this movie, but as long as Jim doesn't climb into a tumble dryer, I guess it's okay. When the pirates attack, Jim has to escape with his mother and Dr. Doppler, only for the pirates to set the inn on fire, leaving them homeless. They seek refuge at Dr. Doppler's house, and it's great how Jim can't quite find the right words to comfort his mother.
I'm afraid the old Benbow Inn has burned to the ground.
It's a subtle touch of body language that's difficult to pull off in animation.
Certainly a lot of trouble over that odd little sphere. It would take me years to unlock its... Hey!
But as Jim plays around with the orb, he discovers that it's actually a holographic treasure map, and this is another moment of pure awesomeness. What a cool idea for a map that takes you through the galaxy. It's almost like a tiny journey in itself.
That's the Cygnus Cross, and that's the Carrion Abyss.
Now, remember that DVD I was talking about earlier? Well, on the disc, they actually used the map as the DVD menu. That's just cool. I don't think a DVD menu has ever been this much fun. It just brings all the memories back. Like, remember the THX Optimizer? What was that all about? I swear, early DVDs used to have way more content. They were always bursting with special features and sneak peeks. Like, there's even an ad for Disney World, where a kid goes running after a lost balloon. But who cares about a stupid balloon? You're in a theme park, boy. And yeah, this has nothing to do with the movie, but when else am I going to talk about this?
What's this? It's...
Treasure Planet.
No.
Jim discovers that the map leads to the mythical Treasure Planet, and thinks finding the treasure can solve their money problems.
There is absolutely no way...
Don't you remember? All those stories? With that treasure, we could rebuild the Benbow 100 times over.
But Mum thinks it's a crazy idea. Unfortunately, Dr. Doppler is there to back her up.
I'm going with you.
Delbert!
All my life I've been waiting for an opportunity like this, and here it is, screaming! Go, Delbert! Go, Delbert!
I like this guy. Dr. Doppler is actually excited by the thought of finding Treasure Planet, and uses his cash to finance an expedition, which, oddly enough, is a bit like Atlantis. It's weird how some of these movies are starting to converge in plot and style.
Jim, I don't want to lose you.
Mom, you won't. I'll make you proud.
Dr. Doppler hires a ship, but in order to get there, they have to visit the spaceport, which is actually the moon. And yes, every time I saw a crescent moon in real life, I'd be like, whoa, Treasure Planet! Seriously, can this movie get any more gorgeous? The animation is sublime. Apparently, it took 2 years just to put together this one shot, and every penny of it shows on screen. It definitely explains why the movie had such a sky-high budget. So much of this movie blends traditional animation with CGI, and I wonder if this movie was an attempt to show that the two art forms could coexist together, rather than one taking over the other, which, unfortunately, is how things ended up for theatrical features. It's impressively ambitious, and a shame it never took off. So Jim and the Doctor reach the spaceport, and frankly, I'm disappointed that Jim doesn't do any racing here. This movie is so unfaithful to the game. After asking for directions from alien versions of the directors, they find their ship.
The RLS Legacy.
Wow. Named, of course, after the writer of the original story, Robert Louis Stevenson. Like I said in my review of the game, this was a super cool ship that I really wanted to explore. On the DVD, there's actually a game where you can go through each section of the ship and search for hidden treasure maps, with little fun facts about the ship along the way.
The laser cannon fires balls of concentrated energy which detonate on contact, and are the heart of the ship's defense.
It's pretty immersive. I used to play it all the time. The Legacy might look like a traditional ship, but there are neat sci-fi touches, like the whole ship having an artificial gravity field so everyone doesn't just float off into space. The entire movie was designed around the 70-30 law, 70% traditional, 30% sci-fi, which gives it a very distinct look, and funnily enough, that law also applied to the box office, with the movie only making back roughly 77% of its budget. They sure worked out the math there.
Good morning, Captain. Everything shipshape?
Shipshape it is, sir, but I'm not the captain.
Unlike most Disney movies, there isn't a princess here, but there is a captain, Captain Amelia, played by the always elegant Emma Thompson, who runs a tight ship with her first mate, Mr. Arrow.
Please, Captain.
Oh, shut up, Arrow. You know I don't mean a word of it.
I guess you could say they have a rocky relationship. Again, this isn't your typical Disney female. The girls all seem to love their action in the early 2000s, didn't they?
I'm Captain Amelia, late of a few run-ins with the Proton Armada. Nasty business, but I won't bore you with my scars.
But the captain doesn't take too kindly to landlubbers, and when Dr. Doppler starts talking about the map in front of the crew, she orders a meeting in her quarters.
With the greatest possible respect, zip your howling screamer.
My brother and I would just quote that for years. The captain wants Jim to take on some responsibility, but he doesn't take too kindly to authority.
In the future, you will address me as captain or ma'am. Is that clear?
Wow, it really is just like being 15 again.
Young Hawkins will be working for our cook, Mr. Silver.
Well, what? The cook?
The captain sends Jim down to work with the cook, a cyborg alien called John Silver, voiced by the late Brian Murray.
Bring in such fine-looking distinguished gents to grace my humble galley. Had I known, I'd have tucked in my shirt.
Now, John Silver is not only a great character, but he also has a giant robot arm, so that automatically makes him cool. I think I just had a thing for characters with tools where their arms should be. I love how he can swap out into all kinds of different gadgets. They should have made a toy of this thing.
Whoa!
Actually, his arm is entirely CGI, and it's crazy how well they blended this with the traditionally animated parts of Silver's body. They actually used old footage of Captain Hook from Peter Pan to test how the two styles were mixed together.
Pick up Tinkerbell and bring her to me.
It's insane, which is probably why this whole clip still feels like a fever dream from the back of my mind. Silver seems charming enough, and he even has an adorable little companion named Morph, who can turn into just about anything.
What is that thing?
Now, Morph would seem the obvious choice for a CGI character, but he's purely traditional, and his transformations have a great flow to them that way.
Captain's put you with me, eh?
Whatever.
But Jim doesn't trust Silver, and goes off to watch the launch of the ship in another pretty incredible sequence. The soundtrack is fantastic as well. Much like Atlantis, it was composed by James Newton Howard, and while I love both scores, Treasure Planet is hands down my favourite. It was one of the first movie soundtracks I ever collected, and well worth a listen on its own.
Say hello to Mr. Mop and Mrs. Bucket.
Yippee.
Silver gives Jim a job swabbing the decks, and he gets to meet the rest of the crew, including a creepy spider psycho called Scroop, who seems like a very friendly creature to me.
Cabin boys should learn to mind their own business.
He's funny. Jim gets into a fight, only for Silver to come to his rescue.
Squeeze real hard.
Ooh, I can still feel that. Mr. Arrow notices the ruckus and gives Scroop a serious warning.
Am I clear, Mr. Scroop?
Transparently.
I'm sure Scroop will absolutely learn his lesson here. Silver isn't happy with Jim, and they get into an argument.
I gave you a job.
Hey, I was doing it until that bug thing got...
Belay that!
But it seems like the one Silver is really unhappy with is Scroop, since it turns out Silver and the crew are actually pirates looking to take over the ship.
You just stick to the plan, you bug-brained twit.
Now, you'd think they might save this twist for later on in the movie, like with Rourke in Atlantis, but since we know Silver is the villain, now we get an insight into how he's playing both sides. Like when he goes back to Jim, he acts much softer around him, and it's a bit ambiguous whether he's faking it or not.
Your father not the teaching sort?
No. He was more the taking off and never coming back sort.
Sorry, lad.
It starts a bond between the two. Maybe Silver sees a bit of his younger self in Jim, and Jim sees a father figure in Silver. It's a great dynamic that holds together the entire movie for me.
Like it or not, I'll be pounding a few skills into that thick head of yours to keep you out of trouble.
This leads into a song montage where Jim completes his various duties around the legacy while Silver watches over him. The song is called I'm Still Here, performed by John Reznick, however you pronounce it. And this song is a banger from the early 2000s. I still love it. Actually, the music video is another thing on the DVD, with John trapped in green screen land, running towards Treasure Planet. It's really weird. I do kind of like Shadow Scroop though, that's pretty ace. The montage deepens the father-son dynamic between Jim and Silver, with Jim being unenthusiastic at first and not interested in working, and Silver being a tough boss, but eventually Jim comes to take on more responsibility, and Silver begins to show more care towards Jim. It also gives us some insight into Jim's past, where Jim was once a sweet kid, only to be repeatedly ignored by his real dad, and eventually, it turns out that Jim's dad abandoned his family. It explains the decline in Jim's behaviour at the start of the movie, implying that maybe he blames himself for his dad leaving. It's all told visually, without any dialogue, just the music, and it really works. It makes you wonder why his dad did leave. Like, who is this guy? You can just barely see him. It's all a mystery. But the way it's cut makes a contrast between Jim's real dad and Silver as a father figure. Like when Silver leaves in the longboat, it reminds Jim of how his dad abandoned him. But unlike his dad, Silver comes back for Jim, and that strengthens their bond. There's a lot of growth here for both of them, so yeah, can you see why I love this movie? Now that Jim and Silver are much closer, they have a conversation about what they might do with the treasure.
Gonna make people see me a little different.
Sometimes plans go astray.
Now we get an insight into Silver's past, where it's implied how he became a cyborg.
How'd that happen anyway?
You give up a few things. Chasing a dream.
I like how it's left to the imagination. All kinds of horrible things could have happened to him in his quest for the treasure. Speaking of bad things, the ship hits a rough patch when a star goes supernova, and the crew have to protect the sails. I would not want to be balancing on that thing in the middle of all this. Jim even has to save Silver's life when he almost falls to his doom.
Thanks, lad.
But when the star devolves into
a black hole!
Thanks, Doc. The ship gets pulled in, and the captain orders Jim to secure the lifelines for the crew.
Lifeline secure, Captain!
But when Mr. Arrow falls overboard, that dastardly Scroop cuts his lifeline, and he plummets into the black hole. Well, he's dead. It's kind of disturbing. The crew managed to ride a solar wave to escape from the black hole, and while at first it seems like everything is fine, the captain notices that Mr. Arrow is unaccounted for.
I'm afraid Mr. Arrow has been lost. His lifeline was not secured.
Jim gets the blame, but I like that Silver isn't dumb here. He knows that Scroop did it just by one look.
I did. I checked them all. They were secure. I swear.
This leads to one of the best scenes in the movie, where Jim blames himself for what happened to Mr. Arrow, and Silver tries to comfort him.
I screwed up! I mean, for 2 seconds, I thought that maybe I could do something right, but...
I don't even need to say anything, just listen to this.
You got the makings of greatness in you, but you gotta take the helm and chart your own course. I hope I'm there, catching some of the light coming off you that day.
It seems like no one has ever said anything like that to Jim before, and it takes an emotional toll on him. And while Silver seems awkward at first, he eventually hugs Jim, making it clear that he really does care about him.
It's alright.
Even though Scroop ends up seeing everything. I really hate that spider.
Next thing you know, they'll be saying I've gone soft.
The next day, Jim gets into a game of hide-and-seek with Morph and ends up hiding in a barrel in the galley, where Silver is meeting with the crew to discuss their plans for a mutiny. Only now Silver is torn between his obsession with the treasure and his concern for Jim, and he has to lie to the crew to hide his true feelings.
Oh, you got the makings of greatness in you.
I cozied up to that kid to keep him off our scent.
That is the face of devastation. But as the ship nears Treasure Planet, the pirates are ready to spring their mutiny, only for Silver to catch Jim down in the galley.
Playing games?
Yeah, we're playing games.
It's a tense moment, since now Jim thinks that Silver is just an evil pirate, but Jim does the sensible thing and shanks Silver in the leg, before racing to tell the captain about the pirates taking over the ship. She responds in the appropriate manner, by busting out the laser guns.
Defend this with your life.
More! Give me that!
Silver blows his way into the captain's quarters with his super awesome laser cannon. What, was he hanging out with Drix before all this? But Jim, Dr. Doppler and the captain have already escaped, making their way to the longboats. The pirates tried to stop them from launching one of the boats, but it turns out that Dr. Doppler is actually quite a good shot. Wow, never mind Scroop. Dr. Doppler has the highest body count in this movie.
Did you actually aim for that?
You know, actually, I did.
But when Morph nabs the map, Jim and Silver try to convince him to hand it over.
Morph over here! Come here, boy, Morph!
Even the Blob in this movie doesn't know who to side with. Jim gets the map, and even though Silver has the chance to shoot Jim, he just can't do it. We all know he's a big softy on the inside.
Shut up!
Jim and the gang make their escape in the longboat, but the pirates use the ship's cannon to blast them out of the sky, and they crash land on Treasure Planet. The captain gets injured, and it turns out that Jim doesn't have the map after all. It's actually Morph in disguise.
It's back on the ship!
What a sick jokester. While Dr. Doppler looks after the captain, Jim is sent to scout the planet, and he runs into a crazy robot called Ben, a bioelectronic navigator, voiced by Martin Short. He's pretty loopy.
After 100 years, you got a little nuts!
Now, I'd say Ben is kind of a Marmite character. Some people like him, and some people hate him. Personally, I don't mind him too much. I mean, you'd be pretty crazy too if someone had ripped your brain out.
So I'm just gonna be, moving on. I guess, this is goodbye, huh?
But he has rollerblade legs. I mean, come on, this is a cool robot. Actually, it reminds me of the Happy Meal toys that came out with this movie. With each toy, you'd get a little part of Ben that you could put together over time. Though why his legs are green, I have no idea. But then Treasure Planet toys were pretty hard to come by here. In the UK, the only way you could get real toys is by collecting tokens from a laundry detergent called Fairy. Because if there's one thing kids love, it's filling up the washing machine.
You let me know when I'm rambling!
So Ben might be a crazy robot, but it turns out he once knew Captain Flint, and he might even know where Flint buried all his treasure on the planet. But since someone has pulled out his memory circuit, he can't remember a thing.
That is accessible! And reboot! And you are?
Ben is nice enough to let Jim and the gang stay at his house, but the captain is still delirious from her injury, and there seems to be a bit of chemistry between her and Dr. Doppler.
Stop giving orders for a few milliseconds.
Very forceful, Doctor. Go on, say something else.
This is what passed for shipping in 2002, people.
You have wonderful eyes.
She's lost her mind!
But when Silver and the pirates find them, Jim goes down to meet with Silver, and it's another great confrontation between the two, since this is the first time they've met since Silver's betrayal, and now Jim thinks that Silver was lying about everything, when he actually was showing genuine concern for Jim.
I didn't mean a word of it. That bloodthirsty lot had thought I'd gone soft.
You can see things from both their points of view, as Silver wants the treasure map, but also tries to keep Jim on his side. But Jim isn't having it, and Silver loses it.
I'm gonna make sure that you never see one doubloon of my treasure.
That treasure is owed me by thunder!
I'll try to find it without my map, by thunder!
I love this look from Silver at the end, just a sad old pirate.
If we try to leave, we're dead. If we stay here...
We're dead! We're dead! We're dead! We're dead!
It seems like the pirates have them cornered, but when Ben reveals a secret exit at the back of his house, they use it to sneak past the pirates and take the longboat back to the Legacy, so Jim can find the real map. But Scroop is guarding the ship and chases Jim down while Ben disables the ship's defenses.
Oh, Mama.
Hey, it's just like the back of my TV. This is another great action sequence, since Ben disables the gravity field, and they end up fighting in mid-air. Jim clings onto the ship's flag, and Scroop gets ready to cut him loose.
Do say hello to Mr. Arrow.
What a psycho. But Jim fakes Scroop out, and in a neat twist on the deaths of most Disney villains, Scroop falls up to his death. He's probably still floating up there now. Jim makes it back to the planet with the map, but Silver and the pirates are there waiting for them.
Fine work, Jimbo.
They capture everyone, and Jim is forced to open the map, which they follow to the burial site of the treasure, but nothing is there. Kind of a downer ending. But it turns out the map is a key to unlocking the secret of Flint's success, a mystical portal that allows for travel between worlds.
The Lagoon Nebula?
But that's halfway across the galaxy.
I always thought this was a really cool idea. You get a glimpse of so many different worlds here. If only all your travel needs could be solved by a simple isosceles triangle.
So that's how Flint did it. He used his portal to roam the universe, stealing treasure.
But where'd he stash it all?
Jim opens the portal to the treasure room, and pay no attention to that laser tripwire. I'm sure it won't be important later on. The treasure room actually forms the entire core of the planet, and Silver finally gets to enjoy his lifelong obsession.
At long last, I can touch it.
Again, great animation. I can practically feel that treasure in my hands. Jim finds Flint's old ship and encounters the skeleton of the infamous pirate himself. It makes you wonder how he died. Maybe he just slowly wasted away, alone with his treasure. But Flint is still holding Ben's memory circuit, and Jim uses it to restore him to normal.
It's all flooding back! All my memories! Right up until Flint pulled my memory circuit so I could never tell anybody about his booby trap!
Good timing. Yes, the whole planet is a big trap rigged to explode, and all the treasure begins to slip away. And so do some of the pirates. Ooh, that's so violent. I'd say this adds to the movie's body count, but after that, there wouldn't be any bodies left. Meanwhile, Dr. Doppler and the captain are a bit tied up, but the doctor manages to trick the pirate guarding them by stealing his pistol.
Is this yours?
For a man of science, the good doctor loves whipping out his guns in this movie, doesn't he? Jim tries to escape in Flint's ship, but Silver climbs aboard, and Jim has to confront him one final time.
Get back!
I like you, lad. But I've come too far to let you stand between me and my treasure.
But when Jim gets thrown overboard, he ends up clinging on for dear life, and Silver has to make a choice. Save the treasure he's been searching for his whole life, or save Jim.
Reach for me now!
I can't!
It's a pivotal moment for his character. I mean, how often is a Disney villain asked to choose between greed or their conscience? Most of the time they don't even have a conscience, but Silver is a more complex character than that, and fortunately, he makes the right choice.
Last me for a boat!
This pretty much redeems Silver, giving up his obsession to save someone's life.
You gave up?
It's a lifelong obsession, Jim. I'll get over it.
Jim and Silver escape the treasure room, but the planet is about to explode, and they take off in the Legacy.
We got exactly 2 minutes and 34 seconds to planet's destruction!
But when the sails get damaged, they have no way of making it out in time, and Jim has to come up with a plan.
We gotta turn around. What? There's a portal back there. You can get us out of here. I'm gonna open a different door.
This is where Jim's surfing skills from earlier come into play, and he works together with Silver to construct a makeshift solar surfer out of the ship's cannon. Wait, you mean a genuine creative solution? Nah, Jim should have just imagined a plane instead.
No matter what happens, keep the ship heading straight for that portal.
Jim speeds off to reach the portal before the planet goes up in smoke, and seeing it for the first time, this had me on the edge of my seat as a kid. I really didn't know whether Jim would make it, especially when the solar surfer stalls and he plummets towards the lava.
Come on, lad.
17 seconds!
But Jim is one pro skater and pulls off a sick grind to get the board back in action. But can he reach the portal in time?
6, 5...
Oh my god, I don't know! Yeah, of course he does. Jim saves the day, everyone loves him, and the captain offers him a place at Super Space School or something.
I'd be proud to recommend you to the Interstellar Academy. They could use a man like you.
It's all in the PC sequel, just look it up. But with Silver still facing serious jail time, he tries to escape, only for Jim to catch him.
We'd just as soon avoid prison little Morphy here. He's a free spirit. Being in a cage, it'd break his heart.
It's similar to how Jim's dad abandoned him before, but unlike him, Silver offers to let Jim come with him.
You and me, Hawkins and Silver, full of ourselves and no ties to anyone.
I met this old cyborg, and he taught me I could chart my own course. That's what I'm gonna do.
But Jim is now too mature for the life of a pirate, and he lets Silver go. But not before one more big tear-jerking speech from our favourite scallywag.
You're something special, Jim. You're going to rattle the stars, you are.
I don't want him to go. Silver leaves Jim with his last bit of treasure so his mother can rebuild her inn, and he finally makes his exit. Farewell to the best written Disney bad guy. So Jim reunites with his mother, the inn gets rebuilt, and everyone throws a big party ever after. Except one important person isn't there, and as Jim looks out the window, he sees a vision of Silver in the stars watching over him. Or maybe he actually is up there watching Jim from a ship somewhere, and that light is the glow from his cyborg eye. That's my headcanon and I'm sticking to it. So that was Treasure Planet, and I think I've gushed about this movie enough to make it clear this is my favourite film of the marathon. I just loved it from the moment I saw it on the big screen. It's a fantastic adventure with amazing visuals, an ambitious blend of technology, a great soundtrack, and a typical Disney hero, a complex villain, and it just puts a smile on my face whenever I watch it. It's a treasure for anyone who finds it. But like I said before, this movie often gets put down as a failure. But you know what? You can't judge a movie just by its wallet. There are bad movies that make money and good movies that don't. This is one of the latter. Unlike some of the mixed Disney movies of the time, Treasure Planet never received any kind of sequel, unless you count the PC game Battle for Procyon. There were plans for one of those horrendous direct-to-video releases, where Willem Dafoe was going to voice a villain called Ironbeard or something stupid like that, but when the film underperformed, it all got scrapped. And to be completely honest, I'm glad this movie failed, because you know why? It would have just been milked like everything else Disney does. There would have been a slew of terrible sequels, and probably a TV show called Treasure Planet School, where Jim has to navigate so many exciting teenage problems like, how can I cheat on the test? Or, who should I take to the prom? Even worse, right about now they'd probably be making one of those dreadful live-action remakes. It'd be insufferable, and they'd probably call it something stupid like Treasure Island. Imagine that. So, in the end, we should be grateful that Treasure Planet wasn't a box office hit. Instead, it just stands on its own, and much like Captain Flint's Trove, it remains a hidden treasure for new fans to discover over and over again. And that's exactly how it should be. But now that we've found the treasure, it's time to discard all those material possessions and embrace the wilderness with Brother Bear.